Byung-do was so angry that he could bite and break a cup. Then he chewed it in his mouth without feeling any pain. The reason was that he was driven to the point of anger that he could do nothing about. Although Byung-do was a team inspector in the case, he was being ordered around by the rich and powerful. Moreover, he had to help them cover up their evil crimes. When needed, they called Byung-do, and when Byung-do was no longer of any use, they kicked him into a corner. Finally, Byung-do's endurance reached its limit. He stood up to fight back. Byung-do was a famous police inspector in this city. He often hung out with gangsters to gather information and investigate the case. His appearance looked more like a criminal than a criminal hunter. Because he was so focused on his work, Byung-do did not have time to care about his appearance. He also had to take care of his wife, who was terminally ill and bedridden. Seeing her suffering from the disease made him lose his mind to worry about other things. His life revolved around work and his wife in the hospital. But that was not what gave Byung-do a headache. Byung-do's wife's brother, who was the mayor of the city, was named Young Pil. However, Young Pil did not help Byung-do at all. On the contrary, Young Pil took advantage of Byung-do's status to help him do wrong things. The place where he lived was not very developed. There were frequent power struggles. The person leading the race was Mayor Young Pil, a man who could use any means to achieve his goals. On the outside, he always showed himself to be someone who always wanted this city to develop so that the people's lives could become better. But on the inside, he was always secretly committing countless crimes. Young Pil could step on others just to have a chance to rise up. Even though he was accused of violating the right to vote, he kept it all a secret. This gave him the opportunity to show off and gain the trust of the people. It can be said that in this area, Young Pil is the boss. However, once he commits a crime, someone will notice. The prosecutors are the ones who hold power. They intended to arrest him. However, they still failed to let him go free. Sometimes there were no witnesses. Sometimes there was not enough evidence to convict him. Young Pil was able to do that thanks to money and Byung-do's help. Byung-do used his job to help Young Pil hide all the crimes. However, Young Pil never showed gratitude to Byung-do, but he used it to become more and more arrogant and brutal. Byung-do's job was to clean up everything after Young Pil had done it. Byung-do had to consider it as his duty that he was not allowed to ask for or refuse. It is a fact that when anyone does evil, they will have to pay the price one day. But retribution came to Byung-do, not Young Pil. That day, Byung-do went to meet a drug addict to pay his salary. It was the drug addict who helped Byung-do silence the witness and save Young Pil from prison. Everything would have been fine if Byung-do's colleague had not appeared. That was Byung-do's close colleague named Min-ho. The police did not care what was going on between them, but when they saw a drug addict walking around, Min-ho immediately rushed to arrest him. Then, Byung-do's superior, Sang-chul, appeared by chance at the scene. It seemed that Sang-chul knew what Byung-do had done all this time, because he was jealous of Byung-do being supported by Young Pil. Sang-chul always tried to make things difficult for him. Byung-do had no other choice but to go against his superiors to give the addict a chance to escape. If Young Pil finds out, Byung-do's career will be over. However, the addict is a brainless scoundrel. While on the run, he took the opportunity to use drugs and then started causing trouble. A person high on drugs like him definitely can't control his actions. He doesn't even care about the police. Even if Byung-do punches him, he won't wake up. There was a conflict between Byung-do and Sang-chul at that time. While Byung-do wanted to let the addict leave, Sang-chul wanted to use him to ask for money from Young Pil. The two of them struggled back and forth, accidentally causing the safety fence to pop open. As a result, Sang-chul fell down and died on the spot. Luckily, Byung-do quickly created a fake scene and blamed the addict. If this was exposed, Byung-do's life would be over, and his sick wife lying there would have no one to take care of her. So Byung-do had to become a real bad guy to cover up these things. However, there were some people who didn't want Byung-do to be left alone, so they deliberately reopened the case. Even normal people know that a drug addict wouldn't actively attack the police. Everyone knew that there must be something hidden in this matter. Surely the prosecutors knew too. They came to Byung-do to investigate, but they couldn't get any results. Not only that, they also constantly followed Byung-do's movements to find loopholes. Everyone knew about the relationship between Byung-do and Young Pil. What Byung-do did for Young Pil couldn't escape the eyes of those who wanted to investigate. To avoid these things, Byung-do resigned as an inspector and switched to working for Young Pil. Byung-do's purpose was to use Young Pil's name to protect him, but Byung-do didn't expect Young Pil to betray him. After Byung-do caused the problem, Young Pil immediately showed his attitude. On the surface, Young Pil tried to calm Byung-do down so that he could continue working for him, but in reality, Young Pil intended to kick Byung-do aside. Because Byung-do was naive, he believed that Young Pil would help him. That was the reason why Byung-do refused to help the prosecutor expose Young Young Pill's crimes. But Byung-do did not expect that in the past he had only threatened others, but this time he was in danger. Prosecutor Jong-soo had grasped Byung-do's weakness, so there was no reason for him to let Byung-do go. Byung-do was the only one who could help Jong-soo find evidence to prove Young Pill's crimes, because Jong-soo had evidence of what Byung-do did for Young Pill. Byung-do thought about his wife, who was in the hospital suffering pain every day, so he followed Jong-soo's words. Even though Jong-soo seemed to be joking, Byung-do did not dare to resist. Byung-do even had to kneel down and beg Jong-soo not to let his wife know. In return, Byung-do will help Jong-soo collect evidence of Young Pill's crime. But no matter how much of a bastard Byung-do is, he will not betray his brothers. No matter how badly Young Pill treats Byung-do, Young Pill has helped him a lot. Byung-do cannot betray Young Pill, so Byung-do thought of a way to get out of this power struggle. Byung-do introduced his colleague Min-ho to be Young Pill's bodyguard instead. Young Pill wanted to keep Byung-do by his side because he was afraid that one day Byung-do would betray him. From the beginning, Young Pill was always wary of Byung-do and never trusted him. Byung-do realized that, so he wanted to keep a safe distance from Young Pill. But Byung-do did not expect that it was his wrong choice. What Young Pill did accidentally caused him to lose his close colleague Min-ho. They had worked together on missions before. Byung-do needed a guarantee that everything he did for Young Pill would be erased. Only then would he feel secure and not be afraid of being abandoned. But Byung-do was too naive when he thought that only he knew how to calculate. From the beginning, Jong-soo only wanted to take advantage of Byung-do. Meanwhile, the drug addict in prison started to act up. He changed his testimony and completely denied his murder. He also openly threatened Byung-do. This made Byung-do unable to keep calm, so Byung-do beat him up. Byung-do once again exposed his weakness for Jong-soo to grasp. Jong-soo was scolded by his superiors, so he had to quickly end these things. At the same time, Jong-soo turned around and put pressure on Byung-do. The first person Byung-do had to investigate was Young Pill's secretary. He was the one who carried out the tasks on behalf of Young Pill, so he would definitely know all the bad things behind it. Meanwhile, Byung-do still had to play the role of a spy. What Byung-do didn't expect was that Min-ho also betrayed him. At this time, Min-ho was already a cruel killer. While Young Pill and his gang boss were arguing, no one dared to intervene. Everyone just thought they were threatening each other and didn't want to attack the other. Unexpectedly, Min-ho suddenly drove his car towards the gang boss. Not stopping there, Min-ho continued to step on the gas with the intention of not letting him survive. Min-ho's actions satisfied Young Pill. Since then, Young Pill has trusted Min-ho more. On the contrary, Young Pill had long suspected Byung-do of betrayal. Young Pill knew that Byung-do had returned to the prosecutors, so he kicked Byung-do aside. Young Pill wanted to prove to Byung-do that no matter what happened, he could handle it. Young Pill had worked very hard to get to where he was today, so he wouldn't be easily overthrown by others. What's more important is that he has a lot of money. Later, Byung-do and the prosecutors discovered Young Pill's source of money. That day, Byung-do was assigned to follow Young Pill's secretary. They were planning something shady, but they absolutely did not let Byung-do participate. So Byung-do used his identity as an inspector to threaten them. But Byung-do encountered stubborn people. They were reckless and extremely hated people like Byung-do. So when they met Byung-do, they immediately rushed to cause trouble. Even though Byung-do had a gun in his hand, he could not threaten them. Young Pill's secretary stood next to him and tried to stop him, but he could not stop the fight. Byung-do told Young Pill's secretary about the prosecutor's plan. As a result, Byung-do was considered a traitor to everyone, and they beat him up. The prosecutors were fooled by Byung-do, so they missed Young Pill's secretary. But when they were angry, Byung-do was just as angry. He was furious and went to find the thugs from earlier to beat them up. He didn't expect them to dare to beat him up like this. Those guys were much more reckless than he thought. It seemed like they wanted to kill him and had no intention of letting him go. Byung-do was cornered to the point where he couldn't fight back. Luckily, after fighting with them on the street, he was still intact. But the other thugs weren't like that. Byung-do ran over to teach them a lesson. When he realized what they were transporting in the car, he was stunned when he saw the pile of drugs mixed with fruit. It turned out that this was the source of money that Young Pill had been using for his plans. But that didn't mean anything when Young Pill's secretary had accepted all the charges against him. Young Pill was still innocent, and he would do anything to keep it that way. Young Pill had chosen someone to replace Byung-do to clean up everything. That person did his job well. The addict in the closet who didn't know how to keep quiet would have someone to help him keep quiet forever. Byung-do's actions not only didn't help Jong-soo, but also messed everything up. Jong-soo was out of patience with Byung-do, so he started to switch from talking to action. He didn't expect them to be able to do things that only cold-blooded people could do. After torturing him, they switched to negotiating because only Byung-do could drag Young Pill down. His wife had surgery surgery, but she couldn't survive. That was something Byung-do knew in advance, but he never gave up hope. She knew what Byung-do did to Young Pil, but she never blamed him. Even though he wasn't a good husband, leaving this world was the best way to free her from the pain caused by the disease. Byung-do had nothing left to lose, so he decided to tell them everything. Byung-do went to see Young Pil, but he was treated like a stranger. Byung-do didn't care about that. He just wanted to see Young Pil. Byung-do wanted to ask Young Pil why he turned him into the person he was now. Then Young Pil kicked Byung-do into a corner. Looking at Young Pil's face, Byung-do couldn't help but reveal his plan. It turned out that Byung-do came here with a purpose. Byung-do wanted to lure Young Pil to tell all his crimes. The purpose was to help Jong-soo, but Byung-do's actions really confused them. They wanted Byung-do to be a traitor, so he would give them what they wanted. Those who wanted to fight each other would have the opportunity to meet directly without having to go through anyone else. Young Pil made an appointment to meet Jong-soo to talk. Jong-soo had no other choice because Min-ho brought people to him to threaten him. A tense meeting arranged by Byung-do disrupted everything. Unexpectedly, one day, criminals had the opportunity to negotiate with those who wanted to capture them. When Young Pil thought he was safe, he revealed his plot. Young Pil intended to use money to bribe Jong-soo to become his man. Before meeting, both of them had their own plot. Jong-soo was not someone who was blinded by money. If Jong-soo was greedy for money, he would not have confronted Young Pil from the beginning. But Jong-soo was also a cunning person because he had trapped Young Pil into telling everything. After Young Pil realized he was deceived, he decided to make the final choice. It turned out that Young Pil had prepared for the worst. Young Pil had hired people who were dissatisfied with the government to kill those who stood in his way. They were cold-blooded people who were willing to kill anyone for a living. At this time, Byung-do was trying to convince Min-ho to turn to him, but Min-ho was blinded by money, so he no longer knew what was right or wrong. Young ordered Min-ho to kill Byung-do, since Min-ho knew Byung-do betrayed them, but because of their brotherly love, Min-ho was not allowed to do so. But they were on two different sides, and Min-ho had no other choice. If he did not do it, someone else would. After Byung-do knew that he could not convince Min-ho, he had to find a way to save his life. The two had a conflict right after that. Only the winner was allowed to survive. Even though Byung-do was his senior, he could not defeat Min-ho. As a result, Byung-do had to lie there for Min-ho to decide. But at the crucial moment, Min-ho could not take action. They were once brothers, and that love was incomparable. However, if Byung-do did not die, Min-ho had to die. Min-ho did not believe that Jong-soo could overthrow Young Pil. Therefore, in the end, Min-ho still decided to end Byung-do's life. After a while of struggling, Byung-do accidentally shot at Min-ho. As a result, Byung-do killed his own men. Everything was caused by Young Pil and Jong-soo. So Byung-do will end everything here. At this time, Jong-soo and his men are being brutally hunted down. Those reckless people treat them like objects to kill. They do not spare anyone because they think that these people are the ones who stole their food and clothes. Jong-soo is no longer arrogant, so he has to kneel down and beg Young Pil to keep his life. If he wants to do that, Jong-soo must prove his loyalty. A person who always hates criminals like Jong-soo today has to play the role of those people. At this moment, Byung-do appears and stops Jong-soo from killing his colleagues. Seeing Byung-do, Young Pil's subordinates begin to tremble in fear. He has nothing left to lose, so no one knows how much he can risk his life. Byung-do had a gun in his hand, so he brazenly fought against everyone alone. Even though he had to suffer many injuries, that was no problem for him. Byung-do had to make him pay for what he had done to Byung-do's life. Byung-do dealt with each of his subordinates one by one. Even though Byung-do encountered many difficulties, he still held out until the end. Because Young Pil was still standing there intact, Byung-do could not die before he had overthrown Young Pil. No matter how much power and money Young Pil had, he could not use it in this situation. Young Pil could only rely on himself to survive and get out of here. No one knew how many injuries Byung-do had suffered since he started this war. Byung-do no longer had the strength to fight back against Young Pil. This time, Byung-do came up with a new scenario where Byung-do was the one to bear everything. But Young Pil will not get his wish because he will not be able to leave here. Thanks to Jong-soo using his last breath to hold Young Pil back, Byung-do took the opportunity to end his life full of crimes with a bullet in the middle of his forehead. After Byung-do watched Young Pil fall, he was completely exhausted. Young Pil shed tears before he left this world. It was a tear of regret, but it was not too late. Anyway, he had redeemed part of his mistakes before closing his eyes. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.